how comfortable does he seem to be with everything that demands at this point in time?
Well, it's interesting that the transition, it appears to be a smooth transition, but I just think that there's so much to learn that it's amazing to me, the success that he's having, the impact he's having on our team, and he's still growing and adjusting. But the reason I thought he has such an unselfish spirit, such a high basketball IQ, he's such a willing passer, a guy who enjoys creating for others. So the mindset is there, and as he gains more and more experience, I think you're going to see him excel at that position. Now, it's not easy doing what he's been able to do, but his IQ, his unbelievable motor, his unselfish spirit just has allowed him to affect the game at all levels: rebounding, defense, creating for others, while he's improving his free throw shooting. He's improved his perimeter shot. You seeing the makings of somebody who's going to be special for a long, long time.
Go to Kurt Weiler next.
Hey, Leonard, good morning. I mean, obviously, y'all are in a good situation now, I guess, entering the week with the double bye. Some teams will play maybe as many as 2 games before playing y'all. But I guess, is this a week where in particular your depth can kind of be a big advantage just in terms of, I mean, you play as many as three games in 3 days?
This team, Kurt, has achieved a certain level of success as a result of many things: the culture, the unselfish spirit, the quality of the depth. We've excelled in, with the exception of the last game, we've excelled in shooting. The interesting thing with this, I still do not feel that we have played our best basketball yet. We've had moments, even in some of those games where we had large margins. I also, when I go back and evaluate them, I see that we still are not quite there yet. So this team is, the quality of our depth is there, but defensively and rebounding wise and execution wise, I still think we got a room to grow. So, we hit a period there where we had enough knick-knacking injuries that kind of kept us from really, really getting in sync with Scotty's tweak his ankle, and MJ and Polite, and then you had Tenor, and we all had, every team has had those types of things, but MJ not practicing prior to the Pittsburgh game and has practiced very little up to this point. That just throws you off. Polite missing those 2 or 3 games and then coming back trying to rehab and trying to get back in the rhythm, and Tenor just kind of gutting it out a little bit, and Scotty, just having to make sure he kept his body warm, riding the bicycle, and just so that he would, those things have kind of kept us from really. I mean, I'm not making any excuses because we've had a pretty good season. But my point to you is, I'm anxious to see us put it all together, and so these types of games where you're in back to back to back, I think would challenge us and would hopefully create that mindset that it takes to see who we are and what we can do. A lot of the things you're asking me, I can't really answer because I still feel that we still got a ways to go. So I can't give you an in-depth, confident assessment, because I don't think we're there yet, and I hope that's positive in the fact that we've had a pretty good season, and I'm still complaining that we got more in our tank, but I feel that way. I honestly feel that we still got a ways to go. So I'm hopeful that going into a tournament where you back to back, where you got to instinctively you got to get it done, or else. I think that is I'm hopeful that this environment will create that mindset in us that will help us rise to a higher level.
Go to Antwan next.
Hey, Coach. Just kind of looking back on kind of what happened last year and the cancellation of the tournament. How much have you been able to just kind of put in perspective about how fortunate you are to even have this tournament and to even go to Greensboro, considering what happened a year ago?
Well, Antwan, to be very honest with you, I have thought very little about what happened last year. We just kind of move on and not allow those things to be part of the conversation. We mention it, every once in a while, but not to the point where we use it as a motivator or something to be a factor in our mindset. I'm always been one to that if you need outside motivation, if you need certain circumstances to bring the most out of you, then sometimes that's not eternal focus and maturity. And to be honest with you, that's been a little concern of ours this year. I think that we've played well against certain teams, and some teams I don't feel like we've been emotionally focused enough to get to that magic level. So, as I'm hopeful that we realize the unique and special opportunity that we have. But this has been such an unusual year, Antwan, to so many different things we've had to deal with, that it's tested all your fibers, your ability to stay focused, your ability to stay in your own bubble that will allow you to stay safe and not only protect yourself, but protect the teammates by maintaining discipline. There's been so many things going on that you really can't really think about what we lost last year. You have to be proud of players in the mindset, because I'm at 19, 20 years old to be a little more restricted and not be able to do things that young people like to do and spend the time, being a college student, and to stay with your group and to try to play at a high level. Gosh, that's been challenging. Our guys have done a pretty good job. So, I'm just trying to stay in the moment, what I'm saying, not trying to look back at the past and use that as a motivator. I'm looking for all those signals to see, can we just continue to keep growing and maturing with what we are facing, and try to, utilize this moment to grow and go into a tournament, and let's see what we can do now, and not look in the rearview mirror, but let's just try to stay in the moment, not look too far ahead, just stay in this moment and not be distracted one way or the other. And that's probably the biggest challenge you have as a coach, in this day and time with all the different distractions that you have. So I just try not to be so philosophical about anything other than just let's deal with what we got right here, and move on, and not hop on the disappointment of last year, and just try to deal with. We go into this ACC tournament and handle it the right way. I mean, and the reason I'm saying that, I thought that the mindset of the pressure, or we didn't. It's obvious that we still not mature enough to deal with it, because I didn't think that we had the right mindset going into the Notre Dame game. We great practices, a lot of energy, a lot of what I thought was culture stuff that I felt good about. But then again, the pressure of being able to go and do something that you have not ever done before was obvious that we one of the best shooting teams in the country. And, we probably shot by as poor as we shot all year. That's because I just think that elusive mindset that you got to be in to go win championships, we're still working on. And it's a moving target. I do believe that physically we're capable, but I'm still fighting, trying to see whether or not I can come up with that. How do I take advantage of this moment here? And that's kind of the mindset we've had, and we've been a little inconsistent with that this year.
Go to Ira.
Hey, Coach, I actually have a second question if I could follow up as well. But my first question is, you guys had a great season, finished second in the conference, and your reward is possibly playing like a Duke or Louisville in the quarterfinals. Does that just speak to how, wide open this conference is and how hard it is to try to win a championship?
There's no doubt that it's interesting that's why college basketball, in my opinion, is the greatest spectator sport ever. Because on any given night, anyone can win, especially in the ACC. And when you look at the hierarchy of our league, it seems to be a shift, that parity is the factor of the day. Everybody is capable of beating you, and if you don't come with your A game, something interesting is going to happen to you. Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech. I'm not real sure a whole lot of people expected us to be where we are, but that just shows that the strength of this conference and the power of the Blue Bloods, and how the like you said, the Duke and the Louisvilles and North Carolinas, and they have elevated, they pulled some of us up and given us an opportunity, to elevate ourselves on the traditional strength of what they have accomplished over the years. And I expect going into the ACC, you can no longer just identify, well, what is it going to be like to be competing against Louisville or Duke, if you don't give that same level of respect to Georgia Tech, Virginia Tech, or anyone else. You're probably not going to win the game. And the mere fact that you asked me that question lets you know that I think the media has to adjust to the new circumstances that exist in the ACC. You no longer can give certain schools more recognition than others because it's flipping. I remember when we had conversations about, I think, Boston College and Syracuse, I think Louisville and Notre Dame. It was, everybody was thinking about the rivalries and are you going to be able to still play the same people, and what's going to happen to the old guard? And my comment in one of those meetings was, fellas, this is going to change. Those schools that are in those positions are not going to be in the same position long. And I think that's going to make our conference even better because of the ability for the blue bloods to bring us new bloods along.
Now, I wanted to ask about MJ. We know he's been dealing with some health issues. He shot it incredibly well at home coming off that injury, but then he struggled from the field this past weekend. Was that any, I guess, lingering effects of that, or do you feel like he's good to go?
But I think that when you look at injuries, when you can't go out, when you when everybody else is practicing, you're icing. When everybody else is sprinting, you're trying to decrease your workload. It affects you. And I mean, no one really performs at their best when they're dealing with injuries and stuff like that. And psychologically, it's just when you can't move and be as quick and get off your feet, and it just throws your timing off. And sometimes when you're a little sore here, a little sore there, you have to. It's as much mental as it is physical, and I see that a lot. But I also know that so these types of games that we were talking about, it can bring you back to having what I call that level 5 focus, and that's just the nature of sports. And some guys overcome it, and some guys have to learn to, just like you got to learn to shoot free throws. Sometimes you got to learn to adjust your mindset of how do you perform when maybe physically you're not 100%. That's part of learning and growing and maturing.
Go to Austin from Tomahawk Nation.
Hey, good morning, Coach. Hope you're doing well. I just wanted to ask you, when you're in a tournament setting like this and your opponent is unknown, does that change anything with preparation versus a regular season when you do know your?
Well, for instance, CY will be working on Louisville, Duke. Coach Jones will have his teams. Coach Smith will have his teams. So before we go to the tournament, they probably have watched the last 5 games that each one of those teams have played, and they'll do their statistical analysis, and they'll do their in-depth study, of everything that they've been doing. And then we'll go to the tournament, and they'll have all the information already accumulated. And so we'll probably be, and as people either win or lose, we'll already have, them evaluated and scouted. So, and then being that we would have already played them, most of them already, it would, we'll be somewhat familiar and prepared, because sometimes you only got 1 day turnaround or a few hours turnaround. Like we haven't played Virginia Tech this year. We haven't played Syracuse this year. So we'll be all over top of that. But we prepared, but the games just didn't become a reality. But we familiar with what they have been doing and what they do, and that's kind of will be our approach.
Go to Ben from the FSU.
Hey, Coach. I hope you're doing well. I just wanted to ask you today about Balsa and just the growth you've seen from him, just from last season to this season, and also the versatility he gives your team.
Balsa is a guy, I don't feel like we're getting him the ball enough. A lot of it is just the kind of the adjusting of how we play. He has all the potential. He has great hands. He's athletic. He has good touch. He's improved his free-point shooting, and he really is a much better ball handler and perimeter shooter than what I think that he's really had an opportunity to display. And as he moves through and becomes more efficient, you'll see in other parts of his game opening up. I just think his future is very bright. I feel like we got to do a better job as a team of getting him in positions where he can be more effective on our team. I like his potential. He has great attitude. He's a good student. And I think most of the time there's a big jump between sophomores and juniors. And I think he's ahead of the curve in what he's capable of doing. And I think that his best basketball is ahead of him.
Go to Ryan Kelly.
Coach, to have as many upperclassmen as you do this year, just how important is it to have that veteran presence when you get into postseason survive and advance mode?
You know, it's interesting you say that. I don't know why I have not really felt comfortable that we are as experienced as maybe we are. We have 4 walk-ons that have been here for a while, because MJ. We redshirted Turk and Wyatt, Malik, and Anthony. So they're 4th-year juniors. They've been around. But it seemed like we just still are not playing, in my opinion, like veterans. We still got a little bit of a ceiling. Now we got great culture. I think Wyatt and our 4 juniors, they have been great soldiers for our program. I think MJ's given us good leadership. Evans, coming from junior college, he along with Jack, you know, they've shown good leadership. But I do believe now that we're in the postseason, hopefully that experience will be more of a factor in the fact that they can look back at the do's and the don'ts and the adjustments that we've made, and also the mistakes that we've made. Maybe that experience will be of some of those guys who've been around, especially our walk-ons, the green team, that they can communicate that with some of the other players that we need for them to perform well, to be successful. For instance, with Scotty Barnes and Tanoy and Sadar Calhoun, somewhat Nate Jack, those guys are important to us. So whereas we've never really been in a position over the last number of years where we have had to rely on first-year players to the extent that we are this year. So it makes me feel sometimes that we're not quite as experienced, because those 3 guys are still learning and growing in our system. And if you remember correct, a couple years ago, Devin was the only freshman on the team that was significant. And then last year, even though we had some new guys, Pat was the only real guy we had to integrate in. But in order for us to be successful, we had to get some guys that had not been around and that's familiar with our system to perform at a high level. And so I don't have that same confident feeling that I've had, only because I know those guys, even though physically they're giving us good effort, they're still learning and growing too. And so we have a good mixture of experienced guys, and we have some guys that are still growing in our system.
Chris Nee, do you have a question, or are we all good?
I'm all good.
Anybody else have any more questions?
All right, fellas, have a good day.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Coach.
Thanks.
All right,
Thanks,
thank you.
Coach. Safe travels.
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.